Hey, what's going on, Warriors? It's Guru Joe, and somebody asked me to break down the four main types of punches in Western boxing, but they had an interesting question, and they wanted to know how that relates to Jeet Kune Do, Wing Chun, Kali, Muay Thai, and MMA. And basically, the theory is the question: is there any differences across these methods, these sports, these styles, and these arts? And I have studied all those arts to completion. I mean, you never really finish something like that. It's just an endless process, sort of like playing a musical instrument like guitar. You gain some expertise over the years. I'm 45 now. I've had over a dozen instructors in striking arts, including MMA, Jeet Kune Do, Muay Thai, all that stuff. But there are some subtle differences, but there's not much. There's what I call the core common components, and those are principles, whether you're throwing a jab or a cross or a hook or an uppercut, that span across all methods and all styles because it's just good human structure. And even if you think about like something I did in my childhood was karate, even if you think about like the reverse punch, the finish of the punch is almost the same as somebody throwing a cross. The only subtle difference is going to be in the guard position. There are a couple things to keep in mind, and the two simplest ways to describe it are what are the rules and what are the tools. When we're confined under certain rules, that's going to include equipment. Are you wearing headgear? Are you going to wear gloves and hand wraps? Is the glove going to be an 8 to 10 ounce boxing glove, or is the glove going to be a 4-ounce MMA glove? The hand wrap is going to change in an MMA glove versus a boxing glove. So your style of hitting might change slightly. Then if we throw out the rules and we consider street self-defense, there's certain things that you can do, get away with, deploy that you would not be able to use in a ring sport, right? No eye gouging, can't stab anybody in the eye with the thumb, probably can't pull the ear, sometimes you won't be able to slap, those kinds of things. Sometimes hitting with the forearm is illegal, sometimes holding is illegal, and that will all change how you deliver strikes. But let's get right down to it. It's really not that complicated. So what I'll do is I'll cover the core structure for each punch first, and then we'll break down similar vehicles, how it might happen in Wing Chun, how it might be used in Jeet Kune Do, how it might be used in Kali, how it might be used in the street. Okay, but basically, we're going to do ring sports first. So let's get started with the jab. Really almost any straight line striking that goes down the center line. We want to consider a couple things about our guard position. So I'm going to talk from a boxing perspective because it's almost universal. Muay Thai will maybe not be quite identical, but for the jab, I like the Western boxing structure. So in a glove, you can have a variety of guards, but a lot of people have a pillar guard, which means they're going to put their gloves at their top row of teeth over the cheekbones and bring the elbows down to the body. So now my elbow covers my rib cage and my jawline without moving. Generally in boxing with the glove on, the temple is not a very valid target. It's not going to do a lot. You can get a knockout there, but people are generally aiming at the jawline, so that's what we're going to cover up. In MMA, it could be similar, could be more of a centerline guard. We use this in JKD too, it's in Bruce Lee's book, The Tao of Jeet Kune Do. It's been around for a long time, at least since the 60s. But in Olympic boxing, you'll find an elongated cover this way too. In Thai boxing, the guard changes a little bit because of the kicking distance. So sometimes the hands will be up at the temple because what we're planning on firing a lot more often with the legs, and a kick to the temple will definitely have the capacity to knock you out. Okay, so from a boxing perspective, hands up, top row of teeth, cover the elbow. Then when we execute the jab, we want to go palm down and push through the shoulder. Okay, one of the reasons we do that is to get extension. The other is when the shoulder extends like this, you can see that it covers the tip of my chin. Now, if I was barehanded, I would deliver that jab in exactly the same way, but my targeting is going to be different. So on the heavy bag, this is important in the glove too, whether you're wearing hand wraps or not. You always aim with the pointer knuckle and the middle knuckle of your hand, because they're going to be sturdy and they're going to be reinforced by the radius and ulnar bones in the forearm. Okay, so when we hit the bag, I'm going to twist my hand over to create torque, and I'm going to fire it this way. Okay, so my chin is down. I'm keeping all those principles in mind here. Okay, now let's consider I don't have a glove on. I'm encountering somebody out in the real world, somebody who's more of an assailant. Okay, but we still want to have a functionality of the jab. If I'm aiming and I'm going to use a closed fist, the principle is not going to change. Pointer knuckle, middle knuckle, I'm going to drive through the target, fire the same way. What's going to change, and you'll see this on the cross, is where I aim. So in a glove, again, hand wrap, even in a 4-ounce MMA glove, man, you feel like you can punch through some drywall, like no problem. Like it reinforces your hand enough that it feels so secure you just could go up to a brick wall or something. So in sport, we typically aim at the mouth area, right at the teeth. We might hit the nose, right? But generally right here. Occasionally, as people move, we're going to hit the side of the jaw. We're going to hit the cheekbone, okay, or the soft tissue of the cheek. When you're aiming on the street, a lot of times those hands are going to be more side by side because you don't want to aim at the teeth because you get the bones of the teeth in the hand. You could hurt your hand on the tip of the chin. These are very hard structures. Okay, if you bloody the nose, you could get blood on your hand. The nose is a valid target, but what can we be more accurate with? It's a lot easier to hit the soft tissue of the cheek. And believe it or not, because of the way our blood flows through our body, we have some oxygenated blood in our cheeks. So when we get hit here at the soft tissue, sometimes it can feel like you've had the wind knocked out of you just because of the impact, all that oxygenated blood. So when you aim on the street, the jab might be more side to side, or it might cross from left to right. And the same with the right hand. It might travel across the body. And you still have knockout power because a knockout is created by either overturning the head this way or lifting the head this way. Okay? All types of jabs are still going to work the same. Like I could do a pop-up jab that lifts up in an arc. I could do that with a glove on, or I could do it on the street. And I could do a flicker jab that comes from like a 3-point cover and comes out. It comes out straight, but it comes from this drop guard shoulder cover position here this way. Now, what's different about Jeet Kune Do? So in Jeet Kune Do, we start to think, and this is also valid for Kali and other arts too, maybe I could do the finger jab, and I've done videos on that too. So the finger jab can be deployed from the same structure, but it also has a big advantage that if my hands are up like this, whoa, hey, whoof, it can drop down as well because I'm not trying to create so much impact as I am trying to hit a very vital target in the eye itself. I'm going to keep my fingers together and drop down like this. And then lastly, in Jeet Kune Do regarding the jab, you may have seen a vertical punch. Okay, we call this Jik Chung Choi, which literally translates to vertical straight fist. So it looks just like this. Okay, the cross can be fired the same way. Okay, when we speed it up, people think that you're punching down in a wheel fashion, but actually what happens is I hit from the lat in the body. I'm not concerned about covering the jaw with the shoulder, and I'll tell you why in just a second. And I'm just trying to drive forward. So 1, 2, 3. Okay. So if I speed it up, it looks like my hand is lowering, but what's actually happening is I'm hitting the same target. Right now I'm aiming at that nose and mouth area, and then I lower it, and my other hand replaces it. Because if I truly hit on the center line, my own hand is going to be in the way. So it has to lower. Okay, so why the change in structure? It's not because Jeet Kune Do is some magic or has this perspective on street fighting that requires a straight fist. It kind of is twofold. So one is that in practice, Bruce Lee would drill the vertical straight fist here like this. But in application, it might be the eye gouge, it might be for the clinch, it might be a hair grab, it might be to grab the ear, all down the center line. So if I finger jab, I might go one to the eye, one to the throat, and one back to the eye. So again, it's keeping that in line. The other reason when you really would deliver it as a vertical fist, maybe you're going to hit the solar plexus. The main reason that we use the Jeet Kune Choi in Jeet Kune Do is range. So imagine somebody has you in like a Thai clinch, or they have you pushed up against a wall. It's going to be difficult to get the arms elongated for traditional striking. It's hard for me to turn my hips. It's hard for me to rotate my shoulder and get all that extension that I talked about earlier. But if I'm up against a wall, that's where that 1-inch punch that Bruce Lee was made famous for early on in his career comes into fashion. Somebody could either be holding you, or maybe they're just in your airspace and you just want to drop a quick punch. That might even give you enough distance where then you could blast them, or you could mix the two. I might go solar plexus, hit the throat, and go back to the eye like that. And so really it's what is the tool for the job, and what are the rules that we are confined in. And even in boxing, Western boxing, anti-boxing, you will see a vertical fist. Like some of our friends from Cuba, they'll call it a Cuban uppercut. They might hit vertically like this in the glove, where the thumb is on top, or they might change it and do the uppercut this way, with a fist like this as opposed to that. But I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. So in regards to the jab, that's the main differences between Western boxing, a gloved ring sport, Muay Thai is the same thing, MMA, largely the same, and having different tools because the rule set is gone when we go to like a street application, when we consider just self-defense in the real world. Okay, coming up in the next segment, we're going to cover the cross. So we'll be back soon. Hope to see you then.